stereotypes for immigrants emerges the minute you set foot in the new country. In this case, when I came to the United States, I was still in my college years and had didn't have a lot of exposure being outside of where I grew up, which was in India. And a lot of both my view of the world was shaped from the experiences growing up there, and then the view of other people had of me was also shaped by the way I looked, the way my accent, perhaps some understanding of or lack of understanding of my culture and where I came from. So it started, and for most people and most immigrants, it starts there. For some immigrants and I'd say that I've personally come across as well, that came later, a little bit later in life. So they came to the U.S. When they're working as part of the workforce, right? And it comes then. But for me, one or two things that still stand out to this day were questions that came from a very sort of maybe innocent place, but they were coming from a lack of understanding of culture or cultural differences. So I would routinely get questions about things like that are stereotypically Indian, right? So whether I am pursuing a profession that is a medical field profession like a doctor, or if I even now when I started my professional career and moved into leadership roles, oftentimes people will assume that I am leading a technology team. Nothing could be farther from that. If you track my career, it's mostly been in outside of IT roles, right? So those are some of the challenges or questions that have come up. And then outside of work, oftentimes it's things like a lack of understanding sort of cultural events, or I'll use Diwali as an example, which is a very big sort of celebration for the South Asian Indian community. And people that don't have an understanding or appreciation for that will oftentimes, earlier in my career, will ask why I'm taking time off during a time of the year that's not quite in the holidays time frame, and it's a little bit ahead of that usually, right? So and then what Diwali is and those kinds of things. So that's what I've come across. In terms of what's challenged me or gotten in my way, I'd say none of these have really been a huge barrier, but it's almost always creates a almost an imposter syndrome, right? And I'm now a American citizen, and when I came here, I like many people wanted to pursue the American dream, and worked hard to grow both personally and professionally, like most immigrants. And I felt a sense of responsibility or burden to represent the entire culture, and that's a lot to carry on your shoulders, no matter which culture you're from, right? And we're mostly representing ourselves most days. On a really good day, you're representing your organization, like Phillips, and you're proud to do that. But those are some of the things, right, that comes along with being different or being an immigrant in a new place. You feel like you have to represent your entire place of origin, which for some people can be a challenge. At times I've been inspired by people that are trailblazers. So people like Steve Jobs that stand for being different or daring to think differently, and world leaders and people like that. But also on a more personal front, coming from more of an Asian heritage, I've looked up to people that here in the United States have made a name for themselves, right? And specifically in leadership roles, and because that's where my passion is, and I like to work with and inspire people and work with teams. And since I was going in that direction, I followed Indira Nooyi, who is the former CEO of PepsiCo, and was also happens to be an immigrant, right? And Ban Ki-moon, who's a former UN Secretary General. These people are trailblazers. They broke the glass ceiling or shattered the glass ceiling. For me, that was inspiring because I could see that not only immigrants but also people from an Asian heritage or culture can make a difference and can grow to the sort of the top of their license level or career level. So those were some people that inspired me. I still follow Indra Nui on LinkedIn today and read any thing that she writes. But on a more sort of closer to professional development, I've been fortunate to have a number of mentors. Here at Philips, when I started my journey, Stefano Folli was my manager, but he was also a really good mentor because he's also an immigrant. He moved from Italy to the U.S. and had taken on a very challenging role in Philips at that time. So we kind of really strongly connected with him. Carol Thompson is someone that I've reached out to as well in Philips. And Carol's mentored many people, right? So those are some of the people that I still am likely to go to here if I need some input or advice or just need some reflection. For me, representation matters because it gives people a sense for you can do it, right? If you look at somebody that's in a leadership role that looks like you or you identify it with in some way, shape, or form, and it doesn't have to be just cultural diversity. It could be something that you identify from a gender perspective, or you identify from a just thought and thinking perspective, or just behavior and values, right? So from that perspective, it matters. And in fact, there's been lots of studies that show that the first time someone breaks the glass ceiling, so to speak, and is a pioneer, is actually very inspiring for people, and usually that is followed by many people then following in their footsteps, right? And whether it is in leadership roles in business, or it is in politics or other areas, you kind of see that, right? So there's a few trailblazers. So I think that's important. Also, it's equally important when you've actually been the one that's gotten to a leadership role to look and give a little bit of your time and energy to others who are aspiring but perhaps are hesitant. So engage and help engage others who are struggling just because of the fact that they're diverse and there's not many good examples. So if you're Asian and you happen to see someone that is part of the Latin ERG group that needs help, reach out and lend a helping hand and be open. Same is true for if they're part of the board and they're not getting enough time or support or mentorship. It's important to give back. So for me, it's a two-way street. One, it's representation matters because it shows you that it can be done, right? And that you can blaze the same trail someone has set. And then on the other side, if you're kind of a little bit farther along in that journey, I think you have to give back, and it lets you, exposes you. So many people who are listening to this will perhaps reach out to me or reach out to you, Anshu, and others that are being interviewed as part of the Asian Heritage Month, and find inspiration, and also probably find a connection, and then we can help them out or give them a helping hand and help them feel engaged and part of our ERG groups and part of Philips. And no advice, but I'll say if you're not an active member of any of these ERGs, and please join. If you're Asian and if you haven't been an active part of the Asian year, definitely lean in to take advantage of the Heritage Month and all the wonderful events that the ERG team has put together. do the same thing if you're interested in the Latinx group or the Berg or other ERGs as well. And even if you're not Asian and you're interested in Asian ERG, we welcome you with open arms. And the goal is to drive diversity and inclusion, and then give people a sense of community here at Philips. And that's why that's our mission. And then ultimately, I definitely would also like to see more emerging Asian leaders. And so I'm always looking to find the next wave of talent in this company. And so please engage and take advantage of all of the activities that are part of the ERG. So I know that's not necessarily advice or words of wisdom, but just wanted to put in my 2 cents as I've gotten a lot out of just being engaging and being part of the Asian ERG and the ERG groups in Philips.
Innovation and you, Philips.